Remote project management requires a specific layer of operational skills that most candidates are not preparing for. This video identifies those skills, explains why they matter in distributed environments, and gives viewers a practical way to start developing them now. See, remote work has changed something fundamental about project management. When everyone is in the same building, a lot of problems get solved passively. You walk over to someone's desk, you catch them in the hallway, you see on someone's face that something is wrong before they even say anything. But in remote environments, none of that exists. And that changes what a project manager actually needs to be good at. The problem is that most PM education was built for in-person environments. The frameworks, the certification prep, the course content, most of it assumes that you have physical proximity to your team. Remote PM roles strip that away, and what's left is much more deliberate, a much more intentional version of the role. The candidates who understand that are the ones that get hired. The ones that don't keep applying. Project management has always been about coordination, getting the right people, working on the right things in the right order by the right time. That's the job. In a traditional office, coordination happens through a mix of formal and informal channels. Meetings, yes, but also side conversations, visible progress, shared physical spaces. Remote environments eliminate that informal layer almost entirely. So what you're left with is structure or chaos, and the project manager is the person responsible for building that structure. So here's what makes 2026 specifically interesting. See, remote work is no longer new. Organizations have had a few years to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and what they've learned is that not every project manager can operate effectively in distributed environments. Some people who were solid PMs in an office environment have struggled to translate that in remote teams. Some newer candidates, people who understand how remote environments actually function, have actually come in and performed very well. The difference is not experience level, it's not certifications, it's a specific set of skills that remote environments demand and that traditional PM training doesn't really prepare you for. That's what we're going to get into in this video. Now, before I get into these specific skills, let me give you some context on where I'm coming from. I've been an IT project manager for over 8+ years. I've run projects remotely from places like Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Argentina. And I've even made over $300,000 in a single year doing this job remotely for multiple clients at the same time. So when I talk about what remote PM roles actually require, I'm not pulling this from a course curriculum. I'm pulling this from years of operating inside real distributed teams. So here's the core insight. Remote project management is not harder than in-person project management, but it is less forgiving. In an office, a project manager can get by on presence alone. They're visible, they show up, they manage through proximity. In a remote environment, that's completely gone. Everything has to be intentional. Every update, every decision, every communication, it has to be deliberate. And the skills that allow you to do that, well, are very specific. They are not soft skills in the vague, generic sense of the word. They are operational skills, and they show up or they don't show up within the first few weeks of any remote PM role. The first skill is written communication. In a remote environment, most of your communication is not happening in real time. Messages, emails, project updates, status reports, most of it lands in someone's inbox and gets read hours later, sometimes the next day. When your written communication is unclear, things back up. People are waiting for information that was never sent. Decisions stall because nobody knew a decision was needed to be made in the first place. A strong written communicator structures their messages so that the reader can act on them without a follow-up conversation. That's a specific skill, and most people have never had time to actually develop it intentionally. Skill number 2 is documentation discipline. Remote teams run on documentation. If it wasn't written down, it didn't happen. Decisions, meeting outcomes, action items, open questions, all of it needs to live somewhere, and it needs to be accessible, because in a distributed team, you can't tap on someone's shoulder and ask, hey, what was decided last Tuesday? Project managers who document well create clarity for their entire team. Project managers who don't create confusion that ends up compounding over time. The third skill is proactive visibility. In an office, people see that you're working. In a remote environment, you have to make your work visible. Now, this isn't about performing or looking busy. It's making sure that stakeholders always have a clear picture of where the project stands without having to ask you for it. The best remote PMs develop a rhythm of proactive communication, proactive status updates, not because someone demanded it, but because they understand that visibility is a project management responsibility. Skill number 4 is remote meeting facilitation. Running a meeting in person and running a meeting over video are not the same thing. Remote meetings require tighter agendas, clearer role assignments, and more deliberate participation management. People drop off, cameras go off, side conversations don't happen naturally as they would in a real environment. And if the PM doesn't actively draw out input from the quiet people stay quiet, the loud people start to dominate. So facilitating a remote meeting effectively is a skill, and it's one that separates average remote PMs from strong ones very quickly. Skill number 5 is stakeholder management across time zones. This one is very underestimated. Managing stakeholders is already a core PM responsibility, but when those stakeholders are distributed across different time zones and they all have different working rhythms, it adds real complexity to the project. Who needs to be looped in before a decision is made? Who needs an update before they start their day? Who is 3 hours behind and can't attend the meetup or the sync? See, remote PMs who figure this out early on create smooth running projects later on. The ones who don't create friction and frustration at the stakeholder level, which is where projects inevitably will get derailed. So here are some practical takeaways for you if you want to develop your remote PM skills in 2026. If you're preparing to work in a remote environment, or maybe you're already working in one and you want to make sure you perform at the highest level, here's where you need to focus. Number 1, audit your written communication. Look at the last 10 messages or emails that you sent in a work context. And could someone act on those emails or messages without asking a follow-up question? If not, that's the first thing that you need to fix. So practice writing updates that are complete on their own. 2, build documentation or habit of documentation. You don't need to wait until you're a PM to develop this. In whatever role you're in right now, start documenting your decisions, start documenting your outcomes, meeting outcomes, and your open items or your items that you need to follow up on, and start making that habit now. And this habit will directly translate into your PM role when you step into it later on. Number 3, practice running tighter meetings. So next time you're in a meeting, even if you're not the one running it, notice what's missing in the meeting. Is there a clear agenda or action items being captured? Is there a defined goal or outcome from that meeting? Start thinking about how you would run that meeting differently. And then number 4, get comfortable with proactive updates. Don't wait to be asked for what's going on your project or on the work that you're doing. Start sending brief weekly summaries of what you're working on, what you got done, where you currently stand. This builds the visibility habit before you actually need it. And number 5, pay attention to stakeholder timing. Notice who in your current environment needs information before they can actually move or get something done or move things forward. Who gets frustrated when they're caught off guard? Start mapping that out now. That instinct becomes critical in a distributed PM environment. And these are not complicated behaviors, but they are deliberate ones. And deliberate is exactly what remote project management requires. So to sum up, remote project management is one of the most valuable career positions available right now. These roles pay well, they offer real flexibility, and companies are actively looking for PMs who can operate in these types of environments. But the people who are thriving in these roles are not just the ones with the right credentials on paper. They're the ones who understood early that remote environments require a different operating standard, more intentional, more structured, more deliberate in how they communicate and how they create visibility. That's the standard that this video was about. So if you're working towards a remote PM role or trying to perform better in the one that you're already in, focus on the skills that we covered: written communication, documentation discipline, proactive visibility, remote meeting facilitation, stakeholder management across different time zones. Those are the skills that will compound over time. And they're the skills that will separate you from every other candidate who studied the frameworks and passed the exams. Now, if you want to go deeper on how to actually build this experience before you land the role, that's exactly what we work on inside of the IDD system. So I'll leave you with a link below this video. Click the link below, join us in our live PM environment, gain these skills, build that confidence, build that exposure, and you'll be better for it on your next PM role. If nothing else, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on the next one.